You're listening to the iGaming News Podcast, your source for global insights, breaking headlines, and expert voices from across the industry. Brought to you by the team at iGaming.news, we go beyond the press releases to spotlight the people and trends shaping the future of betting, gaming, and iGaming regulation. Whether you're an operator, affiliate, supplier, or a regulator, stay ahead of the curve right here. In this episode, we sit down with Luke Campbell, Head of Technology for the iGaming division at CreateFuture. Drawing on experience gained from some of the biggest names in iGaming, Luke shares his insights on the rapid rise of artificial intelligence, why native AI adoption is becoming essential for modern businesses, and how software development teams are evolving in highly regulated sectors, especially iGaming. Hello, Luke, and welcome to the iGaming News Podcast. It's really lovely to have you on today, so thank you for taking the time.
It's nice to be on, and thanks for having me on. It's looking forward to chatting with you.
And for readers and listeners who may not know you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first got involved in the world of technology and iGaming specifically?
Well, obviously you'll know already. My name is Luke Campbell. I've been in tech now for 30 years this year, which is literally quite scary. And the funniest story I've got to tell about that is that I saw a photo of my team from my first role, and I thought, that's weird. I wasn't there. And I was in the front row. I just had hair, which is really quite scary in itself, that I honestly. But yeah, I've been in tech for about 30 years, but my first foray into iGaming was with PokerStars in 2010. And I moved to the Isle of Man for that, which was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Great team. I did a little post about it. We had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun about, working there. And I've been in the gaming industry now, like I say, for about 16 years, doing various different things, including a stint most recently in Australia, which was fantastic with the team at Racing and Sports. And again, that was amazing. A really excellent team, and it's great to see them doing well as well. But yeah, it's been a real fun journey. Combining both tech and iGaming has been kind of like a bit of a passion of mine, and I'm pleased to say that I still really enjoy both aspects of it.
That's great. And you've worked across some of the biggest names in iGaming, like you said, PokerStars. What are the key lessons from your career journey that continue to shape your approach today?
Well, it's interesting actually, because I look back to my time at PokerStars. One of the biggest questions that was always asked by Isai Scheinberg was always, what's best for the user at the end of the day, and what is best for the customer. And honestly, I think that is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I've kind of brought with me all along my sort of journey in gaming, is always asking, what is the best thing for the end user? What is going to really help their experience? And I think that kind of approach does help inform a lot of the sort of, challenges that you sort of encounter along the way. And the gaming world is so fast moving that sometimes it's easy to forget that, simple, simple proposition really at the end of the day.
Certainly. So, Luke, obviously you've moved over to CreateFuture now. What does your role involve in helping businesses to embrace these emerging technologies?
Yes. Well, what I think is interesting about CreateFuture is that they have been really leading the way in terms of AI enablement, and really empowering the end user with AI, and the developers within the iGaming community. And I've been to a number of presentations and stuff like that with them, and I've known a number of the team for a long time. So I really felt like that kind of really resonated with a lot of the approach that I've had in recent times, which is to try and find the best way to empower teams to use AI in the right way, to overcome a lot of the challenges that we face in iGaming as a team. In terms of like my role, I think it's really important. I'm involved kind of all over the iGaming side of things, so I'm kind of heading the iGaming tech side of things. I'm involved at kind of all levels, both from a capability but also from an AI modernization standpoint. So a lot of my conversations are with our customers, talking about how they modernize the platforms, how they supercharge it to cope with things like the World Cup and things like that. These are all important conversations that I think probably keep people awake at 4 a.m., if I'm honest.
I'm sure they do. AI is dominating conversations across every industry. Why is native AI enablement becoming such an important priority for organisations?
Well, this is a really interesting question. I think, truthfully, the answer is actually twofold. First of all, a lot of organizations know that AI will help them improve their practices and help them move quicker and more intelligently, but they don't quite have an idea of how to get there. And that can be a big problem in the first case. So they say, for instance, they say that it's one of the key pillars of what they're doing, but in reality, it's Bob in tech using ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And really, what they need to do is kind of expand that, but use it in a way that's consistent across the board and gives them sort of measurable returns in terms of their investment. But I think the second thing really is that they recognise that I think AI is a superpower if it's used correctly. It can help you deliver things quickly, help you bring things to market. And in iGaming, that is absolutely crucial. The ability to deliver quickly and accurately is super important in regulated environments. But given that the iGaming industry is so fast moving, that I think is where the bonus really lies with AI. And I think it gives you that ability to deliver quickly to the market and also deliver what the customers need. And again, coming back to my initial point, that's what's best for the customer really at the end of the day.
This moves me nicely on to my next question. Obviously, you've spoken a lot around the importance of AI training within organisations. Why should businesses be embedding AI throughout the software development lifecycle rather than treating it as a separate initiative?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, actually, because I think that the difference is that if you embed it within all of your processes, then it really can help supercharge every single aspect. But more importantly, it can build quality throughout the whole process. So you're not just doing it as a sort of optional thing. You're embedding it, making it run quicker, but you're also doing all of the quality checks and all of the things that you need to do that are super important in regulated industries. And I'm not talking just about iGaming, I'm talking about finance and everything else like that. If you can do that effectively, you can move to market quicker, but also you can have a lot of confidence that what you're building is what is not only compliant, but also what you intended to build in the first place. And that only comes by having the AI fully embedded in your processes. And I think we may talk about that a little bit later again. But it's one of the key things. If you have it all the way through the process, it's just going to make such a difference. And it gives you that confidence that you're doing it right.
How do you see AI transforming software development teams over the next few years, particularly within highly regulated industries such as iGaming and finance, as you just mentioned?
Well, again, this is something that I think I alluded to earlier, but I think that what you'll see, is that you're going to see product and engineering teams moving closely together. I think that there will be much more of an art form, and it already is actually, in terms of crafting your prompts to make sure that what you're building is correct. But I think what you're seeing already is that development teams who have traditionally run behind product teams and always have had a backlog are actually catching up with product teams. And in one case, in one of our clients, the product team can't actually keep up with the development team because they're moving so fast and getting things done. That, I think, is an amazing thing. It's like an absolute good news story because they're getting ahead of the game and delivering everything that's needed. And I think that, for me anyway, I never have thought that would be the case in a few years ago. And I think that's going to continue, and you'll see that accelerated pace. But what it means, practically speaking, for the kind of engineering and regulated industries is that you will be able to deploy an idea very, very quickly. And I think that is only going to accelerate as time goes on. And again, using AI in the right way in regulated industries means that you can be sure of the provenance of all of these things, that everything goes through in the right way, that you have the right audit trails so that if the regulator comes knocking, you can answer the question and say, well, here's how it worked. Here's how we generated idea. Here's how we checked it all. Here's how we prove it works. That, I think, is the superpower that it brings you. And that I think, is where the industry is heading. So what will happen is that the customers will be delivered features they didn't even know they needed. And it'll just appear so quickly. I think that's inevitable now, the way things are heading.
So looking ahead, we've got the FIFA World Cup, which introduces a new expanded format. What opportunities and challenges could this create for sportsbooks and betting operators?
Well, I think first of all, we'll touch on the challenges. Clearly, there are more pinch points in terms of performance issues for operators. There's a lot of bigger games. So for operators, and actually in terms of this time, the timings are not particularly great for a lot of operators. You're talking about overnight games and things like that, certainly in the UK time. But across the world, the timings are never particularly great for anyone who's operating a platform. So the challenges, I think, first of all, are keeping it running. Because like anything else, you have to keep the lights on and make sure it's performant for your customers. If you don't do that, that's trouble already. I wrote a little article on that before, but I think that's the sorts of things that keeps us all awake collectively till 4 a.m., never mind the football. But the opportunities are really, really quite something. If you think about it, gaming has kind of moved on considerably in the last few years, but customers are becoming much more sophisticated in terms of their wants and needs. And I think that is informing a lot of what operators are doing these days in terms of what they're offering to customers. You can see a lot of differences in terms of the product styles and the product offerings that are out there. That's only going to continue, but there are opportunities for the operators to really offer something innovative in the market for this World Cup. And I think if they can do that, and I've seen some evidence of that so far, then that is going to make it a big success for them.
Do you think that will be creating demand for new types of markets and new products?
Yes, and I think already you're seeing that. I mean, it's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day, actually, and I think that the iGaming community is a little bit in flux about how they deal with prediction markets. But that is a good example of the fact that there is demand across the gaming community for different types of products. Predictions are not the same as sports betting, and they're a different customer demographic. But if you look at even sports betting or casino, as I think I mentioned before, there is much more demand for different types of offerings. Nobody wants to just look at a big spreadsheet, and nobody just wants to see the same slot machine regurgitated. They want to see something different. And that, again, coming back to the point about being able to move fast, the fact that AI is there allows you to innovate at pace and allows you to try things. I think speeds that you couldn't have dreamt of before, maybe even 3 years ago, never mind 5 years ago. And I think that is the difference maker for a lot of teams, really, at the end of the day. And the operators are seeing the benefits of that.
So, Luke, I know you're involved in the wonderfully titled Steak Pie Club, which is a growing networking community for technology professionals. How did it begin, and what makes it different from traditional networking events?
Well, this is actually probably one of the funniest ones. I think this came from a sort of observation I'd made to a colleague of mine, that as long as I've been in tech, I've always initiated some sort of lunch club. And this dates even back to my days at Quadstone, where we had this sort of ongoing steak pie club at the Melville in Edinburgh, which was, by the way, an amazing pub. And we used to phone up every weekend, and have about 19 steak pies on pre-order and 1 token lasagna. And I was joking about how that became a thing. But when we talked about it further, we actually thought it had legs, because a lot of the traditional iGaming networks events are really, they're centered around alcohol and drinks and stuff like that. And that can make a lot of professionals a little bit uncomfortable, And so we felt that maybe more of an emphasis on meeting up, networking at lunchtime, for instance, talking around food and having a bit of a laugh was actually a nice way of doing things, and quite a nice different way of looking at it, albeit with my favourite steak pie built into it, of course. I mean, that goes without saying. So that's really where it came about, and I think it's still a really great idea. Steak pie isn't mandatory, by the way. You can have absolutely anything you like. I have to say that, but I do recommend. I can find a few places to recommend, of course. But it's for me, it's just a great way of making it still a more kind of fun event for people to chat and stuff, but without kind of too much pressure to sort of have a glass of wine in hand and all that sort of stuff. So it just felt a little bit different, a little bit unique. But again, still something that people would remember and enjoy. And I think that if you can achieve that, I think you're winning.
And are these monthly events or quarterly events? How often do you run these?
Probably quarterly. If I had my way, it would be daily to be honest. But that probably would result in an expanding waistline, which probably, given my progress in losing weight, wouldn't be the best thing in the world. But I think we're aiming to do it sort of quarterly, really, and whenever people are available. But that doesn't stop us doing an impromptu steak pie club, of course, because that's what life's for.
Exactly. And any plans to kind of branch out to Neeps and Tatties Club?
I love that idea.
There we are.
I love that idea. We might actually steal that, Abby, actually, to be honest, and maybe give you a little bit of credit and an invite. The best standing invite already. So there you go.
And away from CreateFuture then, away from the office, how do you spend your spare time? And are there any interests or hobbies that help you maintain that fresh perspective professionally?
Well, again, I love talking about these sorts of things. So I have a number of interests. I'm a huge NFL fan. So, in fact, I'm going down to the NFL games in London in a couple of months' time, which I'm really looking forward to. But also in my spare time, I collect retro computers. So I have a huge collection of old ZX Spectrums and Sinclair QLs in particular, and Commodore machines, because that's how I sort of got the computing virus, so to speak, which is ironic, when I was a kid. And I've loved it ever since. So I have a huge collection of them, which I'm actually picking up this weekend, in fact, which I'm looking forward to getting back from Australia. And I can't wait, but I do love all that sort of stuff. And generally, I'm a sports fanatic, so I love football and all sorts of other sports. I think the only one I don't really watch is cricket, pretty much, but everything else, but I pretty much watch. So good TVs in the house is a good plan, generally speaking, with me. Let's just say that.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for your time today, Luke. It was really interesting chatting with you, and best of luck with your endeavours within CreateFuture.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. And it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you too.
There we are. Thank you, Luke.